I love fighting games. The adrenaline rush you can get from playing a really close match is something the fighting genre is known for. But as much as I love fighting games, most of them are highly flawed. There are different kinds of fighting games. I refer to them as 3D, Smash Brothers, and arcade. My labels don't make a whole lot of sense, but I was never taught the proper names for distinguishing these subgenres. Here's some examples of the games I categorize. 3D fighting games consist of Tenkaichi, Soul Calibur, and Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm. Smash Brothers fighting games consist of Smash Brothers, Battle Stadium DON, and Naruto Ultimate Ninja. Arcade fighting games consist of Killer Instinct, Street Fighter, and Marvel vs. Capcom. I vastly prefer 3D and Smash Brother fighting games over arcade fighting games because of the difference between what they expect of the player. 3D and Smash Brother fighting games usually expect the player to use the right move at the right time to win the match. Arcade fighting games, however, expect the player to know, understand, and use thousands of button prompts with insane precision to win the match. This is why I enjoy 3D and Smash much more than arcade fighting games. It's just way too much time and effort. It just becomes a lot less fun for me personally. Arcade fighting games just require way too much from players on even the easiest difficulty settings. A video game should never feel like work. Spending hours trying to learn how to play a game is not fun. Learning how to play a game should always be as simple as booting up the game and starting at level 1. No game is exempt from this. The more complex a game is, the more important a low entry barrier is. If a game is overwhelming, it's going to scare away the majority of potential players. Less players means less chance for a sequel. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the control scheme for arcade fighting games are flawed. I don't think they need to dumb down their controls so that they're easier to pick up and play. All I'm asking for is that these games teach their players how to play the game better. Arcade fighting games have tried to fix this with training modes and practice modes. This is kind of what I define as training and practice. A training mode would be one that shows you one move at a time and expects you to do that move a certain number of times before you can move on to the next move they want you to try, and so on and so forth. So eventually you've tried all the moves in the game. Neither of these are good enough. The only game that comes close to what I'm looking for and needs to be standard in all arcade fighting games is the newest Killer Instinct. KI has a dojo mode that step-by-step teaches its players everything about the game. Dojo mode is broken up into lessons that are short and slowly increase in difficulty appropriately. You can start and stop whenever and wherever you want. Each of these lessons teaches the player how to move, what a combo is, what the meter means, different ways of dealing with a fireball, what's a mix-up, how to do a mix-up, what a combo breaker is, how to do a combo breaker, and what a basic combo structure is for this game. If it wasn't for Dojo Mode and Maximilian Dude's YouTube channel, I wouldn't be even half as competent as I am in Killer Instinct. Granted, I'm only good, I won't even say good, I'm only decent with Saberwolf, and he's probably the easiest character to pick up and play, but that's besides my point. Dojo Mode's one failure is that it only teaches you how to play as Jago. I think that this flaw is a result of the low budget the KI developers were given when they, created the game, but at any rate, trial and error is a great way to learn how to play a game, but not when the player has to trial and error the very control scheme the game requires you to use. Trial and error only works when there is a slow learning curve. It astounds me that this has never changed over the years. I understand that these games were popularized and created for arcades where everything was trial and error, quarter-eating gameplay, but that's no excuse. They're out of the arcades now. A lot of these games aren't made specifically for arcades now. They're just made for consoles, and they're not optimized for consoles. Like, that's not cool. The major arcade fighting game developers have never created a good learning curve for their games. They just expect their old fans to pick up and play this one just because, it's another arcade fighting game. Players who get good at these games spend hours in training mode learning the movesets of every character and frame data. Frame data and specific character or move attributes should be auxiliary information that gives the game more depth. It should not be necessary for basic play. In other words, arcade fighting games all but require the player to learn complex button presses and precision timing with little to no assistance from the game. Arcade fighting games basically say, get good or go home. Not even Dark Souls is that callous. Let this be a message to all fighting game developers. Teach your players how to play your game while they play the game. Don't make them spend their time learning how to play in a training or practice mode. While you're at it, why don't you optimize your game's controls? Killer Instinct is basically unplayable using the Xbox One joystick. It's responsive and all, but it's not precise. You trying to use that stick and doing any of these quarter circle combos and like the left right that Saberwolf requires, you will get so many extra motions in there. You can't do a combo reliably with a stick. That is unacceptable. Or at the very least, warn players about that. As far as I understand, anyone who wants to be good with fighting games almost requires a fight stick. That's not okay. Because, anybody who wants to just pick up and say, Marvel's Capcom and say, oh, man, I love Capcom and Marvel. I want to fight these characters. That'll be fun. They're going to pick it up if they've never played an arcade, fighting game before and be like, how the fuck am I supposed to play this? I don't understand. And they're just going to drop it. That's not fun for anybody. Okay? At the end of the day, I love me some fighting games, but all of the arcade ones specifically are flawed, and no one wants to talk about that, other than extra credits, of course. I hope that this eventually changes in the future. I hope that the Killer Instinct's dojo mode catches on and is expanded further. I really do, because it bothers me. It bothers me a lot how sink or swim arcade fighting games are. And that's just not fun or fair for anybody.